This is a VAT tutorial video for the last part of the radial design. So part 1 is making the radial in Photoshop. That's another video. Part 2 and part 3 is vectorizing and adding color. And part 4 is assembling the final presentation page in Adobe Illustrator. So in Adobe Illustrator, we're going to create a new file. And this file, we're going to go to Print. We're going to name it Radial Final Page. So remember that it's a page layout. We are going to change points to inches, if they're not already changed, and make our width 17 and our height 11. And that will give us a really wide, long file that we can fit all of those 6 designs on. So we're going to hit Create, and there's our page. What you're going to do is File, Place, just like we've been doing in Photoshop, but File, Place is the same as File, Place, Embedded. So File, Place, and you're going to navigate to find all those Illustrator files. You're going to double click, let's do grayscale first. Double click on grayscale, and you'll see this little floating thumbnail. You can either click and it will come in at full size, or you can click drag to make it the size you want it. And that's all you do. You just pop it in there, and I deselected by clicking off. So we're going to File, Place, double click the next one. You can see how you can line it up here and drag to make it the exact same size. Now before I go farther, I'm putting all these files in, but I'm going to lose track of what the names of each of these files are. So I'm going to deselect, and I'm going to go to our text tool. It's similar to what we do in Photoshop, but actually a little bit easier. Click the capital T tool and click once underneath your grayscale. Automatically start typing grayscale. So we're adding a title. What you're going to do to change the size, in Photoshop we had to Control T. In Illustrator, when you click the selection tool, you automatically get that box. But we have to hold down Shift to scale up the size. If you don't hold Shift, you get all this crazy stuff happening, and that looks really bad. So hold down Shift and make it bigger. Now you can go over to your Properties panel, and you'll notice you have Character here, kind of like Photoshop. So you can drop down and hover this way, or you can highlight Myriad Pro and roll with your mouse, like roll the wheel on your mouse, until you find a typeface you like, whatever works for you. But you're noticing that I'm not highlighting. You don't need to highlight. That's what that arrow is for. You click it and it's selected, and you should just be able to change your typeface. So find one you like, and then move it so that it kind of fits in with your design. And then you're going to hold down Alt, just like we do in Photoshop, and drag a second text box. You can see it's giving you alignment options. Now you double click and highlight, which allows you to change that title. I think I chose complementary, so I'm not really sure. I'm going to go back and check. Oh, it was analogous. That's not analogous. It was complementary. So I'm going to title that complementary, because that is definitely not an analogous color palette. You'll notice that that's bigger than my, it's a longer word. So don't worry about it so much right now. Just get the title in there. So we're going to File, Place, the next one. Now I'll do analogous. So I'm going to line it up, drag it down, let go, deselect, Alt, drag, double click, highlight, analogous. Move that around with the selection tool. So don't worry about perfection right now. Just place each one of them in there. I would use the alignment tools though. That's really helpful, and it's going to save you some trouble in a minute. So this was my high contrast, File, Place, monochromatic. See that intersection? That's really nice. Makes it easy for you to align things. Whoops, chromatic. And then our last one, triad. Oops. Control Z, always your friend. Alt, drag, triad. So now what you have, back to your selection tool, so you don't actually type again. Remember, you can hold down Alt and roll with your mouse to see more of your page. I have more room, actually, and hold down spacebar and move this around. Now what I have is more space. So if I want to move things around, I literally just click on them and move them. So I can drag with my mouse, I can hit my arrow keys. What you're going to do is align this somehow in a nice grid. Use those pink lines to see that everything's lined up. There's another option to make things go a little faster. See how there's less space here and more space here in between my boxes? If I drag over all 3 boxes, I get an align pop-up in my properties panel. If I click on more here, I've got some distribute or spacing of objects. This center one distributes based on the horizontal marking of those boxes. So in other words, if I click it, it creates the same amount of space along a horizontal line. That's pretty helpful. So then I'm going to make sure this one is also aligned. This one is aligned. And that one is aligned. You even saw those like arrows pop up showing me that it's equally distributed. So now I have to deal with my text. Actually, I'm going to drag over everything and just move it over a little bit on the page. So again, that drag option helps you really move things around quickly in Illustrator. I feel like these are too big, so what I'm going to do is click on my grayscale, and I'm going to go to my text box over here, and I've got point size, so I can just shrink it by points, just until I like what I got. Let's say 40. I want all the rest of these to be 40. A shortcut is to click complementary, hold down shift, click analogous, click triad, click monochromatic, click high contrast. Let me use this eyedropper tool. You've seen that before in Photoshop. Click that and then click on grayscale and they're all going to pop down to 40 point size. So that's really helpful. So then I can arrange these, and I can really do the same thing with these that I did with alignment. If I wanted to, I could drag over just that bit of text. I could go to align, I could go to distribute, and do that if I want to. So I can use those shortcuts to distribute. This is almost bare minimum of what you need on this page. The next thing we're going to do is add a background color. Now if I look at the way my page is laid out, it's kind of weird with the gray and the green up here. The rest of them kind of all have red in them. So I think what I'm going to do is drag over grayscale as a group. So see how I dragged like that. And I'm going to move that over here. Then I'm going to drag over monochromatic and move that as a group. So in other words, I'm replacing it, drag over grayscale, move it into the spot. So my text isn't perfectly aligned, but I'm trying to get my boxes lined. That looks a little more balanced. I've got the darker reds here and the lighter reds there. So feel free to move your boxes around to give it a little bit more balance and unity. I'm going to add a background, and to add a background in Illustrator you use shapes. So our rectangle tool here is typically, I'll just set it to default, typically set to a white fill over here, white fill and black stroke. So if I drag, and feel free to go out in the gray space because it doesn't matter when you're done. If I drag over the whole thing and let go, it looks like I lost my work. But really, if I go to the move tool, it's behind. So what I want to do then is move my white box behind my work. With the white box selected, you right-click, arrange, send to back. Now white's kind of boring, so I want to change it to be a different color. I can go to my swatches, and now my basic swatches are showing up, but those colors don't look at all good with any of the colors I have going on here. So I'm going to use that eyedropper tool and click on colors, click on colors that are already inside my document. So I'm just kind of clicking through and seeing if there's a color I can choose that works, kind of unifies with what I've got going on out here. Maybe that's dark, maybe that's light, maybe you even want to go for a gray. That's your call. But try to find a color that you think works. I'm going to land on gray, I think, maybe a lighter gray. So there's a little bit of color back there, but not much. I'm going to turn my attention to my titles. So I'm going to click here and hold down Shift and click on complementary. Because if I tried to drag, I might pick up more than I want. See, my boxes are selected, my background's selected. Or even if I'm really careful, I'm still selecting my background. So I'm going to click on monochromatic, hold down Shift, click on complementary, click on analogous. Oops, that was not what I meant to have happen. And find my alignment again, and I'm going to align bottom, meaning they're lined up on the baseline now. So that's a little bit better. Then I'm going to try to move with my arrow keys monochromatic over so it's right underneath my monochromatic image. Same with complementary. So you can see those boxes that line up so you can kind of make sure it's centered. So when you're dealing with Illustrator, you're often dealing with alignment issues and making sure things are, pretty much perfect and in a grid. And so you've got to spend some time making things perfectly aligned. The other thing I can do and want to do is change the color of my text. So once I have them aligned, I'm going to hold down Shift, click on each of the individual words. By the way, if you accidentally select your background, you can keep holding Shift and click it again and deselect your background. So those are all selected. I can go to the Eyedropper tool and I can pull a color out of my picture. So it doesn't matter that there are illustrations and my text is text. I can still use that to find a nice color. What you see right now is bare minimum for this assignment. You have to have your 6 designs. They have to be labeled. They have to have a background. If you want to go extra, you can start to add more layers by making frames or making boxes with the rectangle tool. So maybe what I'm going to do is add a box here to kind of make my text stand out. So now it looks like they disappeared, but again, it's in front of my words. So if I arranged and sent it back, it would go behind everything. I don't want that, so Control Z. I'm going to click on my monochromatic, hold down Shift, complementary, hold down analogous. With those, I'm going to right click, arrange, bring to front. So now they're in front of the box. Before I move the blue box, because they're just going to blend in, I'm going to go to my eyedropper tool and make them the same color. They look like they've disappeared because they're the same color. And then I'm going to move my box up, and there they are. So if you want to add some boxes as extra, you can definitely do that. You just have to play with the arrangement of things. Now that nice blue box, I'm going to Alt-drag and make another one here. And I have to do the same thing. So I'm going to click on Contrast, hit Shift, Grayscale, Triad, right-click, Arrange, bring to front, use my eyedropper tool, click. Go back to the Move tool, move up my box. So now I kind of have some nice frames. You can even go more extra, like if you want to add individual frames behind each square. So maybe you do something like right-click, Arrange, bring to front, move that square behind. So if you like that kind of, this guy's caught up. So right-click, Arrange, bring to front. So if you like that kind of like extra framing, you can make this frame the same color as the picture. I don't know, you could do whatever you want with boxes. You just have to play with arrangement and make sure that you don't have this kind of thing happening unless that's something desirable. So I'm going to get rid of that and just say that that is done. And you would save this, File, Save it as your Radial final page in your folder, save it, and click OK. And this is the final document that would go in your